pros and cons of exposing your weaknesses and vulnerabilities.
Wait, what's from you? Wait.
Give yourself an uppercut. Give them nothing. A whole level of... Maybe they're fabulous, maybe they're full of shit. I'm Sharon H, rolling out my weekly dose of unapologetic candidness. Ever wondered about the pros and cons of exposing your own vulnerabilities and weaknesses? Well, buckle up and enjoy the ride, because I'm going to give you my no-holds-barred, real raw take on both. Just remember, everything in this video is coming from my own viewpoint and perspective. Take what advice you want and let the rest slide right off of you like Teflon. And if you like straight shooting, be sure to hit that sub button, because you're gonna get plenty of that right here. Hit that like button for me right now if you've ever held back in sharing your weaknesses and vulnerabilities in fear some joker will use them against you. If you failed to hit that like button, then I'm guessing you're one ballsy mofo, or just kidding yourself. I don't think there'd be many of us at some point not trying to mask our fears in fear of someone thinking us weak or taking the piss. But then comes the ever debatable question: does sharing our fears and vulnerabilities, or keeping our fears and vulnerabilities hidden, make us weaker or stronger? Let me know in the comments your opinion on this. Doesn't matter what we share, I believe there will always be some fuckstick waiting to pounce and use it against us. But does getting in first rob them of their power to do just that? In my opinion, anyone willing to use our weaknesses and vulnerabilities against us is toxic as hell. And with toxic traits typically comes cowardice moves derived from low self-esteem. These numbnuts will go out of their way to expose our fears or flaws as a way to deflect, draw attention away from their own. It is my belief that anyone of strength or substance in the room would see through this rot too. Ultimately, they feel shit about themselves and want to make the target of their piss-taking feel shit about themselves too. It somehow gives them a false sense of power by trying to expose a false sense of weakness in another, when in fact it's completely the bloody opposite. When we share our weaknesses and vulnerabilities, yes, of course, we are potentially leaving ourselves exposed to the feeble-minded, but we are also potentially opening ourselves up to allow others who resonate or care in. We also may be enabling others to find the confidence to lay bare their weaknesses and vulnerabilities too. We're all perfectly honest. We all have vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and we all most likely fear something too. Come a little bit closer. Let's be honest here. Do you also have weaknesses and vulnerabilities and fear something? If you answered yes, I'm proud of you. But if you answered no, give yourself an uppercut, because you've got to be full of shit. We all most likely have weaknesses and vulnerabilities and fear something. Shying away from them will never help us overcome them, nor will worrying about others exposing them. Anyone who takes pleasure in making fun of another's weaknesses or vulnerabilities, better hope they have none of their own. Because what a first-rate douche they're gonna be looking when what goes around comes around. Anyone who has to make another feel lesser so they can feel more is nothing more than a yellow-bellied muppet, guaranteed to be harboring more insecurities than your average bear. Hey boo-boo! The best way to cope with the brunt of being such a person's weak actions is to internalize that it's not about whom we are, but about whom they are. I'm a firm believer, personally, in getting in first, taking away their supposed power by beating them to the punch. When we learn to laugh at our own idiosyncrasies, less will laugh at us and more will laugh with us. Anyone with any real emotional strength will most likely empathize and will often share similarities of their own weaknesses and vulnerabilities. There is far more strength in allowing ourselves to come down to earth and admit we're only human than to big ourselves up, trying to feign being superhuman. When we are in the presence of a toxic person, they will make up their own narrative about us anyway. Odds are others will be all too aware this person is a breeding ground for backbiting, negative bitter depictions of others, and most likely take any of their warbling with a grain of salt anyway. The only truth behind any of their nastiness is typically the animosity they feel towards their own vulnerabilities and weaknesses, hiding whom we truly are, in fear of others exposing whom they truly are, is energy and confidence sapping. Facing up to and owning our vulnerabilities, I believe, can only lead us to strengths. Yeah, sure, sometimes we may momentarily feel small in order to grow, but to blossom and bloom is to go through the storms. When we learn to be immune to the toxicity and mean in another, we deplete any power they have over us. By diminishing their power, we leave them unable to infect us with the toxins they need to permeate beneath our skin in order to win. When we put up an invisible shield, these kinds will hopefully realize their toxic attempts are futile, and with any luck may start on a little self-reflection of their own. In saying that, I'm not advising we leave ourselves wide open to the vultures of this world, practicing some discretion and mostly only sharing with those who truly deserve to know us would be my first option of choice. So rather than feigning we have no weaknesses or vulnerabilities, it might be more viable to our well-being to ask ourselves why they are privy to our business at all. I'm melting. It's bloody hot. Anyone who uses our weaknesses to feel big by making us feel small should know nothing about us at all. Whilst I do not think we should pretend to be anything we are not, I also think we should take these kinds nowhere and tell them fuck all. If they are in a position within our existence that we can't rid them completely from our lives, then at the very least we should keep them on a need to know basis. If it's private, then these jokers don't need to know. For like a wild dog, they will pounce if they sense fear. But knowing that only the fearful would try to use our fear against us can be quite empowering. They may never stop trying to belittle us, but we can only feel belittled if we allow them to accomplish that. We learn to shrug them off as nothing more than the insecure masquerading as the secure, and they can never diminish us. We shouldn't try to cower away from our vulnerabilities and weaknesses. There is more to be gained by confronting them. Nobody can use something against us we ourselves are determined to conquer. And when we can openly admit we have them, I believe we've taken that first step forward to obliterating them. The more we try to distract and bury them, the more we are practicing avoidance of them. Like with anything problematic, avoidance will not see them perish and disappear. The cons in hiding from them is they will forever be lurking, awaiting some self-consumed knob-whacker to taunt us with the knowledge of them. The pros in divulging them is in the right company. Often a problem shared is a problem halved. Not everyone we meet will try to use our vulnerabilities and weaknesses against us. Some will help us see that having them is human nature and that none of us are perfect. They then too will most likely entrust us with their own. In my experience, many of us share the same insecurities and fears. But until we talk openly about them, we just cannot know this. Most of us at some point have feared looking stupid and feared what others would think about us, would say about us. Hence why so many think hiding from their fears, weaknesses, vulnerabilities will protect them from the backlash of them. In actual fact, hiding from them and the fear of someone weaker, using our weaknesses against us, will only help them fester. But when we realize we all have them, we also realize that most people don't give us, or particularly our weaknesses or vulnerabilities, much of a bloody thought. Most are too busy trying to find ways to combat and fend off their own. To understand that only the insecure will try to belittle and demean is to realize that there is so much strength in confronting our weak. Strength is in facing our own insecurities, hiding behind a mask of something that's a false representation of whom we really are, will never see us become whom we are truly meant to be. Our fears and shortcomings are a part of life, and without them we could never truly evolve. This does not mean we have to wear every thought and emotion on our sleeve. Some things others need not ever know. There is no detriment to discretion and choosing what we show. Strength comes in being unafraid to admit we have flaws, fears, and doubts just like everybody else. So long as we are being true, some things are okay to be left unsaid, sharing only what is necessary to help us and others grow. Worry not for those who prey on others' weaknesses in a bid to camouflage their own, for they'll remain stagnant in their own vulnerabilities and weaknesses, whilst we'll have flourished with being okay with our fucking own. Like with anything, practicing avoid. Like with anything, I'll try again tomorrow.
Break out of your shell, meet me halfway.